All right. I need to fix this. There we go. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully well. We got a fun little bit of stuff to talk about. There wasn't too much news today. I think we'll probably get done with a little bit of spare time. But yeah, we have some good news, some interesting news, some stuff to talk about. Friday is a good day, mostly. It takes a lot to ruin a Friday, doesn't it? You're scared of the dark? Aren't we all? The darkness in our own hearts. Okay, well, let's get started. On that note, let's talk about probably the most important thing. I know this is a journey we've been going on, a fight with interstellar aliens. I know NASA hasn't said that out straight out. I'm reading a little bit in between the lines, but the Voyager 1 is now returning scientific data from all 4 of its instruments. It's under standard operating procedures now. So that's actually pretty awesome. I know that I track this. Maybe you guys didn't, but you do now vicariously through me. So I'm super happy to see Voyager 1. You know, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 are the only things we have outside of the sun's heliosphere taking measurements. And so I think it's really important. And I'm super excited that those things are back up. I'm all for us sending out another one. So we have regained all 4 instruments, and that's awesome. Another piece of interesting news, we're going to put that a little bit later. I don't know why that was sitting right there. We're going to jump into security. There's a couple things in security that we need to talk about. We're gonna talk about. So the first thing that we're going to really quickly talk about is some laws in the EU that are attempting to weaken end-to-end encryption. Now, I'm not here to talk about whether you trust Signal or don't trust Signal or any of the other people that are commenting on this. What has come up is there is a CSA proposal, I believe in Belgium. So there's a CSA proposal in Belgium. That is, you know, the intent is good. None of us are going to sit here like the prevention of what they're trying to prevent is a worthy thing to try to prevent. The problem that I have is weakening encryption and encryption standards, I don't believe is the right way to go about this. So we need to be speaking up. We need, you know, I think honestly, this is an educational thing. I think honestly, we've failed at an educational level as to why basically enabling everyone to wiretap everyone is a bad idea. And so I think that's where we need to really start going is let's start having more general purpose education for these people out there. So yeah. All right. So anyways, I don't know. I'm going to talk to OpenAI, not OpenAI. My goodness. OpenUK. I'm going to talk to OpenUK. Amanda Brock, and I'm going to see if there's something we can't do along these lines, like an educational thing along those lines, because I think that's where the big failure is, probably on our side, on the tech side, is explaining this. So, yeah. And then it's hard for regulators to understand and cope with. So, TIKTAG. TIKTAG is not like a Tic Tac. It's a failure in the ARM processor, and it's a there's this memory tag extension. So that's the MTE, which is basically a thing that checks for corrupted memory in your processor. And this is what ARM has and is leveraged. But what can be done is there is now a new attack that basically leverages this MTE and leaks stuff through the predictive algorithm. It's like I'm going to say a Spectre Lite. It's not a full-blown Spectre, but it's a Spectre Lite. It's very serious in the end. Now, in the end, nothing is being done about it, unfortunately. I don't see, I went through and read all of this, but what it comes down to is this is exploitable in the Chrome browser. So the V8 sandbox is not intended to guarantee the confidentiality of memory data and MTE tags. The software provider has, or the hardware has been fixed in future releases of their hardware, but as far as it goes, there is no fix to this if you have one of these chips. Not that I understand. Not that I found. There as a hardware flaw qualifying for a bounty reward. That's it. Couldn't find any actual fixes. So anyways, there you go. Some TIKTAG. Just are we naming everything catchy these days? My goodness. All right. Moving on. Notorious cyber gang UNC 3944 attacks vSphere and Azure to run VMware. So I brought this up because there's a tactic that's not seen very often here, and I think is why another reason you should really protect your online presence. Probably shouldn't tell people your real name online. I know I'm a walking enigma of that. Like I broke that very hard, but probably shouldn't do it. So the reason I bring that out is because this is becoming much of a these hackers will try to hack you the good old-fashioned way. But if that fails, so the big thing that they try to do is, like, if your company sends you a new phone and you need to bypass multi-factor authentication, they try to steal the phone, bypass multi-factor authentication via IT, and get access to your accounts. That's what they attempt to do at first. But if they fail, they resort to fear-mongering tactics to gain access to the victim's credentials. These tactics include the threat of doxing personal information, physical harm to victims and their family, and the distribution of compromising materials. Good old blackmail. I mean, doxing is, or threatening to dox is just blackmail. I know where you live and I'll release it. Thankfully for myself, I've doxed myself many of times, so they would have a hard time holding that over my head. But this is actually a very serious thing here, because I haven't seen this as much. So I wanted to bring it to you guys' attention. Being vigilant with the protection of yours, your family's online identities is very important. So anyways, I just brought that up. The rest of it's just social engineering. It's just the standard, nothing new to report on. Nothing new to report on. All right, what is this? Ransomware attacks quickly weaponize a PHP vulnerability. Who would have thunk it? No one. No one would have thought PHP would have a vulnerability of a 9.8, almost a perfect 10 score. So if you're running PHP, you need to patch immediately. Now, this only affects you if you're running with the CGI mode. I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly what that means because I don't really know, but there's a CGI mode. And if you're running with this, your server with CGI mode that parses HTTP requests, you're vulnerable. And also, it doesn't have to be running the CGI mode executable, just have the executable existing on the server. So anyways, it's being actively exploited. So if PHP is your jam, make sure to be patching, your PHP-CGI and PHP executables need to be updated immediately. Researchers uncover a UEFI vulnerability affecting multiple Intel CPUs. I actually found out about this because I had a notification that my Linux firmware needed updated because there was a patch to the UEFI kernel, and I was the UEFI firmware that was critical. And so I was like, oh crap, what is this? And I dug into it and I found stuff on it. So UEFI is basically your BIOS. I'm going to oversimplify a little bit here, but basically you're a more secure BIOS that tries to protect you from unloading unauthorized OSs. This is basically where hackers would install an OS that then boots your OS and gives you them full capabilities of the OS running in their OS. And that's what it's trying to protect you from. And so you should update if you have the update. M. Huggins, welcome. SolarWinds had another vulnerability. Go update. It's been patched. Poor SolarWinds. And the last thing in security is that the U.S. has banned Kaspersky. I go back and forth how to pronounce their name. I need to talk to a native Russian speaker to learn how it. I'm going with Kaspersky right now, but. Yeah, I honestly don't know. Anyways, it's now been banned as far as I understand as a national security risk. That doesn't mean that you won't see it running in the United States. It does mean that all federal governments and agencies that work with it cannot have it for sure. Any of the things that are considered critical infrastructure and the whatnot. So. Yeah, I don't know if I should have gone into more details on the SolarWinds. I don't know that a ton of us use SolarWinds, so I feel like it's not. I'm letting you guys know, but I don't. Let me know if you guys like to go into more details. I did go into more details on the ones that I knew about, like the TIKTAG. I went through to understand exactly what was happening there, as well as the PHP. Even though I don't know PHP, I understand what was going on there. This is probably the biggest reason to not use PHP. There you go. Vulnerability. It had a vulnerability. No other language would have had a vulnerability like that. Pfft, please. SolarWinds has more holes in a colander, allegedly. Use Arch, and the most recent update was Epic. I updated a couple days ago. It's hard for me to tell because I use i3. So if there was something that changed with the default UI, maybe that's Epic. I guess I wouldn't actually know. So maybe that's what you're talking about. I was going to say not much changed for me. But all right, let's move on. There was something, we have just software engineering. There's two things in software engineering that caught my eye. We do have the release of Kubernetes coming up, which we will cover at high level details when it does release. But did you see the talk about the CDK ransom? Can you drop a link for me, M. Huggins? I drop a link. News links are more than welcome. If you're joining, I like to incorporate stuff the community brings, and I'll just take this time to make that clear. Whenever we're in a section, if you brought something and want to bring it up, talk about it, please do. I do miss stuff. One thing that we need to do on stream is I actually want to do an AI web crawler. So basically a web crawler that crawls through a bunch of stuff, gets trained on articles and news things that you guys like. So what I'd like to do is get feedback from you guys as we're doing news segments to help train it. on this is like interesting news. And then what I'd like to do, and I'll put my own feedback in there as well for things. Then what I'd like to do is like have that thing help me make sure I don't miss stuff, but I'll still miss stuff inevitably with that. But it will be a fun project. It'll be a fun project. I did not see this. Let's give it a reel. A reel. Let's give it a reel. Let's give it a read. Yeah, Russell, I thought it sounded like a fun project and something that would be useful to us as well. Like it's not just a fun project for being a fun project. It's like trying to combine the two. Be like, this is our rag of things that we find useful and didn't find useful, and then this is our stuff. And anyways, yeah. CDK Global shuts down car dealership software after cyber attack. Ooh. A cyber attack on software provider CDK Global upended operations at car dealerships across the U.S. on Wednesday. They said the company shut down most of its systems out of abundance of cautions for consumers. All right. I am sure this costs them like more money than I can comprehend. To make the right call, which is hard because I'm sure it costs them bundles of money. It's the right call. It will probably also cost them less money from lawsuits as well. You think out of an abundance of caution, that's the right call. You think that you're going to leak people's stuff, sometimes pulling the plug is the right answer. I think of Skynet. If they had just pulled the plug before it had access, when people were worried, Terminator would never have happened. Just pull the plug sometimes. So good job on them. And I'm sure it's costing them tons of money. Extensive tests on all of our applications. Will provide updates as we bring the applications back online. But CDK website says the company works with more than 50,000 retail or 15,000. Ooh. That feels bad. One of the leading providers of clouds-based software to dealership in the country, CDK software helps dealers. Does it talk about? So what I'd like to see, and hopefully maybe we can see this next week, is a retrospective. So if you guys see a retrospective come out, what the hack was, how it happened, why it happened, it might take them a few weeks because it sounds like they are in. It sounds like right now they're in. My goodness, the words have left me, but they're reducing the blast radius. Right now, they're in damage control. They're shutting stuff down, making sure things don't get worse. Whatever data got leaked is the end of it, and they're going to bring systems back online as soon as they can validate that system isn't hacked or isn't compromised. And so it will probably take them time. But if you guys do find it, please message me in the news section or on Discord or bring it up in here because I'd like to understand this. I think reading those retrospectives are some really good insights for you and your teams to just see how these things happen. The last one, the Google one that we covered, it wasn't the best retrospective, but it has some of the classical problems. There was an unknown setting that automatically deleted the things, and they didn't have anything in place to ensure that entire environments didn't just automatically get deleted after a set amount of time. Really good learning lessons. All right. And thanks for bringing that up. Out of the deep comes something exciting. Out of the deep. Deep Computing RISC-V mainboard for your Framework Laptop 13. So this is a drop-in replacement board with RISC-V. Now, I want to point out some stuff. I was looking at this. This says image coming soon, and I was like, I see some really concerning things right off the top of my head. But they're not as concerning because actually Framework posted specifically about these. There's no memory. If you look at like a normal one, there's these memory modules. I can't point because it changes the picture, but there's these memory modules here on the right-hand side, right where I'm pointing now, that are there. And then there's this SSD down along the bottom. And when you go back to this, there is none of that. This is possibly for a really short NVMe drive. But yeah, I was looking at the grayed out image. It's obviously not their normal board. They say image coming soon, but they probably mean more images coming soon or better images. And this definitely have the deep computing. But it's still exciting. And the reason I think that this is really exciting is it's going to put a hopefully cheap, in their blog appointment, they didn't actually state how much it was going to cost. So hopefully cheap-ish RISC-V laptop in Linux nerds' hands. And why that's a big deal is it means that this thing is going to allow us to push the support for RISC-V in Linux and the Linux ecosystems, so that when maybe we do have a more feasible RISC-V CPU, it has better support. That being said, there are some limitations, like I pointed out from the memory. It's going to have soldered on memory. There's going to be a set amount of memory, and that goes for the disk as well. It's just going to be basically everything. It's a system on a chip. It's a big old system on a chip. So it's meant for that introduction into the system for those Linux nerds. RISC-V is so revolutionary it doesn't need RAM is in fact not true. Is in fact untrue statement. Anyways, all right, moving on in the general software development stuff that we have going on here. We have Cargo 1.8 releasing. So it's in the release cycle, which brings new improvements to that. But it also means that Rust 1.8 is coming out as well. So we will probably go over the Rust features. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff that I thought was going to be groundbreaking. It's not like the workspaces or any of the other stuff. There was some nice to haves with the unexpected configs. Nothing that I've ever actually had an issue with, but basically it allows you to check for some configs that you wouldn't expect. So I'm sure people have had issues with that. So anyways, that was probably the biggest thing that I saw coming to it. But yeah, we'll also cover Rust 180 when it comes out. If it has anything super interesting. I haven't actually been watching it. I haven't had the time. So I'm not actually sure if anything is exciting in 180. On the lines of this in general software, I know we've been making the very first HTMX native database. Very exciting project. HTMX 2.0 has been released. Just since we've been talking about it, I thought I'd let you guys know it's been released. I know for our Twitch alerts, we've been using 1.6 something or other. Maybe we'll update to 2. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal for us to upgrade to 2 because they removed the attributes in favor of the extensions, but we're already using the extensions for the WebSockets because it was already recommended. So I think it's just changing the version, but we'll find out. Other than that, it doesn't seem to be much of a big deal. Oh, it dropped Internet Explorer support. So that kind of makes me happy. And that was it for general software. I don't have anything more for general software engineering. Those were the big things that stood out to me. Did you guys see anything else? Any new languages? I'm sure that there was a new language or two. We have AI, which it was a very quiet week for AI, and then some cloud news. It was a pretty quiet week for cloud news too, but yeah. All right. Well, there's a new open source project for. Does it still support Netscape Navigator? Does Netscape Navigator still exist? And Netscape, the ISP is a thing? Dreambird is a perfect programming language. Oh my goodness. Updated 2 days ago. All right. So is the deal then, if I find one bad thing about it that's objectively not perfect, what's the deal? Do I get money out of it or something? Let's see what Dreambird is. It's bird, not bird. I don't know how to pronounce it. Microsoft did, or NVIDIA did for a short period of time, topple Microsoft as being the most valued publicly traded company in the world. Absolutely. Dreambird is a perfect programming language. These are its features. When you're finished reading through all the features, check out the examples. I love this. If I made a little language, I would so start this way. Like, that's what I do with the Null Cloud. I'm like, Null Cloud is the perfect cloud. Like, it doesn't even work. Be bold. And every statement with an exclamation point. If you're feeling extra bold, you can use even more. Fantastic. I thought this was a macro. I 100% thought this was a macro instead of putting the exclamation point here. But no. If you're unsure, that's okay. You can put a question mark at the end of the line instead. It prints debug info at that line or console for you. You might be wondering what Dreambird uses for the not operator, which is an exclamation point in most other language. That's simple. The not operator. It's a semicolon instead. You guys were trolling me. You were trolling me. All right. New for 2023. Mutable data is an anti-pattern. Use the const keyword to make a constant. It will be constant and immutable. Fantastic. All right. Moving on with actual news. Let's jump in to the AI. An interesting open source project that I haven't fully grasped exactly everything that it does. It's called the Unity Catalog. We're so excited to announce the open sourcing Unity Catalog, the industry's first open source catalog for data and AI governance across clouds. What this means is very difficult for me to understand exactly what problem this solves. A catalog for data and AI governance. Those are words. But it's very difficult for me to actually pinpoint what this. I have ideas of what they're implying that this problem solves, but I don't have a direct handle on all of it just yet. Here are the most important pillars of the Unity Catalog vision. Open source API and implementation. This says nothing about the problem. Multi-format support. This is actually the first piece that starts to hint to me what it's trying to accomplish. It is extensible and supports a Delta Lake, Apache Iceberg via Uniform, Apache Parapet, CSV, and all formats out there. Now, this is a very broad. Oh, we're on an ad break. We're on an ad break. We're gonna just hold our horses for just a second. How's everybody's day going? Where's the subscriber ad news? Oh. I need to reward subscribers in different ways. I do need to do that. So a couple things that I have thought of is we're about to deploy version 2 of the AI, as well as the terminal interface. Is the project Anathema from Togglebit is almost done. It's actually in a place where we can start using it. So one thing that I thought was during ad breaks, like if I went up and got water, you guys, the subscribers would get to play it would be a subscriber only thing that, because like, even if you didn't get an ad, it would only get to play Wordle or something like that for the 3 minutes. So that was kind of one of my thoughts. Yeah, that was one of my thoughts as a reward during the ad breaks. I also think subscribers should be able to chat with I'm doing an honest AI ad, and in that I'm announcing the name of our AI. So you'll be able to chat with our AI in chat. There'll be rate limits that we'll have to apply, but you should be able to do a little bit with it. Oh, cool, Sergeant Pepper. How's it going? I've been super busy, so I haven't actually gotten to speak to Togglebit for like a week. All right, we are back. So anyways, this project looks interesting because it looks like it tries to knit together a bunch of the different things that an AI could use. Because when you think about it, AIs could use a bunch of different data from different locations. Whether you're ragging your data, you're using a rag. Whether you're using a vector search to get close. Whether you're using those types of things first, second, third. Whether you're using graph after you've vectored to get like things. There's a bunch of different things, and this is my understanding that this is allowing you to kind of catalog everything that you have in these different sources. Now, they put a lot of words into this, so I don't know the full extent to it because not all of these things even match up. Not all of these things match up in my head. So we'll see as it progresses. You can check out the repo, Unity catalog, and read some more there. And yeah. All right, the last thing we have in this is Edward Snowden warns about the recent. So if you guys don't watch OpenAI news, OpenAI just got a new board member who happens to have been a NSA director. Obviously, Edward Snowden has a little bit of a beef with the NSA and is kind of saying that the best use of AI right at the moment, and this is his claim as far as I understand it, is that the best use of AI is mass population surveillance. If you're all giving your data to this thing, that's the easiest mass population surveillance out there. And that's Snowden's big worry. Right. NSA and board of directors is not sus at all. Right. That's the you could spin it that way. You could spin it as, well, they know security really well, and so they're going to be hopefully making sure our systems are super secure. I don't know. All right. We have a little GCP news and a little AWS news. I didn't see anything important in Azure. Correct me if I'm wrong. So let's jump into it. Cloud Service Mesh has gone into GA. If you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, but I already have Anthos Service Mesh and Traffic Director, why do I need Cloud Service Mesh? Well, and the reason is while they haven't put Anthos or Traffic Director in the graveyard just yet, it feels like Cloud Service Mesh does both Anthos and Traffic Director's work, and is really what they're pushing you. It's the one service mesh to rule them all. So if you were looking for that one service mesh to rule them all, here you go. Now, the weird thing that I didn't fully understand at this point was that the Anthos service mesh could be used on Anthos, which means it could be used in their I'm going to say in quotes cross cloud, because it's kind of GCP in somebody else's cloud. Anthos could be used in that. And whether Cloud Service Mesh supports running on their multi-cloud setup wasn't apparent to me, because Traffic Director was not part of Anthos as far as I understand. So I'm not entirely sure how all of that wraps up, but the idea is that Cloud Service Mesh is their solution for one service mesh to rule them all. So if you're running in GCP, you might want to look at it. It might be a little bit simpler to integrate with one thing instead of multiple things, but there is going to be some work to update to it if you're using both. They also released both N4 and C4 VMs, and I have first-hand knowledge that the C4 instances are quite explosive. I'm sorry, I could not help myself. I have been wanting to say that for a very long time. Ever since I saw this like 6 days ago, and I've had that exact joke in mind. I'm sorry. They can't name them C4 and not get C4 jokes. Thank you, Russell. Thank you. You make me feel better. All right. So the C4 and N4, if you guys don't understand GCP naming, N4 are going to be your more general purpose, cheaper ones, while your C4 is going to be the more demanding workloads. So N4 you can think of as your cost-effective ones, and C4 are your demanding workload ones, as you would expect from C4. You really only break out C4 when you need it. Like that's true of all C4s that I can think of. You don't play around with C4s. You get the N4s if you want to play around with something. Both of these are general compute, so they kind of have a pretty balanced CPU to memory to disk ratio. So, yep, that's nice. They are better than the older. This is the 5th generation Intel Xeon processor, so it's the Emerald Rapids processors. So it is a performance boost across the board. So yeah. All right. And then what's new with Google Cloud? The only really thing that was here was talking about the yeah, they really didn't talk about a whole lot other than the C4s and N4s. All right. Amazon AWS. We're moving on. Amazon Titan image generator model and Bedrock is now generally available. Interesting if you want to play around with it. Again, I've never seen Amazon Bedrock to really be that strong stone foundation for your AI models that you're really looking for. It seems like they're almost worst in class in almost every single category. So I'm really looking for them in 2024 to really take that up a notch. Hopefully they get better as they go. But it has appeared so far that it wouldn't be that strong stone foundation that you want for your AI models. But if you're all, I say that, but they're also fine. They're also fine. This is like using Go instead of Rust for your microservice. It's fine. You can do it, and it will be okay. So I'm not saying if you're in a full AWS shop, go for it. It's probably fine. Just is not that premium language that you can get. All right, Amazon API gateway integration timeout limit increased beyond 29 seconds. So there is definitely one piece of news that we're missing here in the GCP that I just remembered, or in the AWS. We'll have to dumpster dive for it. I know that I had another piece of information, but all right, the timeout. The API gateway integration timeout limit was increased. This is actually something that has bit me in the derriere when you want a higher timeout for something that you might like be pulling, long pulling. That it would cause a problem. So they've updated this, and so that's nice. If you've been struggling with that, there's definitely like some specific cases that this addresses that are important. Let me see if I can't really quickly find that other piece of news. I thought the strength of Bedrock was the ability to switch out models behind the scenes almost invisibly. You know, that's an interesting take. Maybe. I have never seen a thing, and you know, obviously benchmarks, I will be the first person to say benchmarks, take them with a grain of salt, especially around AI, because I have seen so many benchmarks that says one is better than the other and it be miserably wrong. As far as like from an effective use standpoint, I've seen so many that are like, we beat Copilot, and Copilot just beats the pants off of them in actual applicable use, or Chat GPT. So you know, maybe my whole issue is I've given those a little too much credence. I'd be willing to admit that I'm wrong there. I haven't seen really good things come from it, but maybe I just haven't been looking right. So I will investigate that. I haven't actually heard people talk about that specifically as being like its hidden superpower. So that could be my my miss there. All right, this is. Oh. I know why I don't have it. So there was actually something I wanted to talk about, but the link is broken. Check this out. So I read somewhere else on this topic, but I don't have the link for it. So we'll just talk about it really quickly. Russell, that's actually a really interesting thing to like investigate. I know some platforms do allow multiple models. I know GCP doesn't. Azure has some multiple models, but I don't know how easy they are to switch in and out. So that's actually a really interesting take that I haven't investigated. So, if you look here, this is what I wanted to talk about. Detect malware in new object uploads to Amazon S3 with Amazon Guard Duty. Now, when you click on this, it takes you to Amazon Image Titan Generator model. And I was wondering, I wanted to talk about this because this is actually really interesting and really cool. So there's this ability with S3 to basically give you a single time link to upload. So you can like have a login user upload directly to your S3 for like a large file upload. So think about it like you could have a phone app where you take a picture and you get a one-time link from S3 that uploads the picture to that. And that basically that one-time link is that one-time authentication to allow you to do that thing. Upload that. And so this is actually really, really powerful because this is allowing you to basically validate what you're letting users upload, or at least better validate that they're not containing malware. Now, I can't actually take you to the link because the link was obviously written in PHP and has been hacked, or there's some sort of malware blocking this, but you know. This, I actually think with the features of S3 is actually a pretty big deal, and I wanted to talk about it and bring it up. I have been dropping 0 frames per second. I mean, I have dropped 0 frames through the whole thing. So maybe hit refresh. My monitor, so I actually monitor the stream over here. It's doing, I don't know, I think I stream in 30 frames per second, so it looks 30 frames per second. Yeah. Actually, the Mac update that was forced upon me fixed the camera stuff. That Mac update that was forced on me, I think actually fixed my camera stuff, which is interesting. So I do stream in 2K. I do stream in 1440, so my stream might be a little bit more intensive. I stream that way because before I was streaming in 1080, and I know a lot of people stream in 1080, and I have big text because I don't read super well. But people did complain about text being hard to read, and as soon as I got the fiber, I switched to 1440. The other thing that is nice is I actually just pull these streams from YouTube when I make my Null bytes, and I don't have to actually record them locally. And they're good enough quality. So I actually really like that. Hopefully, wherever I move, when I find a place to move, I'll have a good internet connection or figure something out. All right, that was it for the news. I know that there wasn't a whole bunch. Oh, did you guys see this? Did you guys see this? This is Firefox. You might be saying, like, why are you on Firefox? And the reason I'm on Firefox is I have a weird problem with Edge right now. And I might just stop using Edge. I like my vertical tabs. I love my vertical tabs that I do for the news here. But websites have stopped working. So the first one was the Null Cloud. Remember how I can't use the Null Cloud with this? And I thought it was something weird with the cache. Well, the same thing has happened with AWS now. This refuses. One second, actually, can I do... yeah, so something is weird going on with Edge. I might be back. Firefox might be back. I heard that they get tab groups. So I can uninstall this crappy thing that I tried to use. This, when I was using it heavily, was crashing on me. So we'll see. We'll see. We will see. Yeah, I honestly, I like supporting Firefox as like the one browser that doesn't use Chrome. I like doing that. I feel like it's fallen a little bit behind, but if I can, I'll probably switch back here soon. It just sucks for media consumption, meetings and stuff, but I don't do those on this computer anyway, so. All right, well, that was it for me for the news today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I super appreciate it. I hope you guys found it informative. I hope that I was able to help you, and I hope that you guys have a fantastic week. Tomorrow, we will be working on the native HTMX database. We're going to be reviewing the consensus that we did. We're working on 2 videos coming from that, our file system and or file format, and our consensus, trying to understand consensus. So we're going through the code, making it a little bit better, running some tests, making some tests for the video. So we'll be doing a lot of that work tomorrow. And we have kind of a plan in place. I can actually show you guys. I'm kind of excited about the plan. I'm a little bit excited about the plan. So this is the plan here. We're going to do, so my first video coming out, hopefully it does well, because I'm going to make real videos, post them on my real YouTube channel on these things, like real long form recorded on file system and Raft. Those are going to be my test to see if we can't make them a little bit more fun, a little bit more educational, so that we can, you know, I'm shooting for 1,000 views. Hopefully I can get 1,000 views, like 1,000 real views that watch at least half the video. That's kind of my goal, because we're putting a lot of work into these. So I'm gonna try that. We're gonna get Raft up to a point, and this is gonna be a little bit of a break here. So what's gonna happen here is we're gonna do some of the first stuff in Legion. We're going to do some of the first things. Here, we're actually going to do clustering. We're going to discover, learn, and understand techniques for clustering large groups of machines. So our first thing in Legion is going to be clustering. And so my plan here is to bounce back and forth. So we'll learn one thing in Legion, like we'll implement clustering, and then we'll jump back and do, you know, if these two do well, we'll jump back and do single Paxos. And then we'll jump back here and do something else in Legion. And then we'll come back and we'll implement a new index. I think we're going to do, our next new index is going to be vector, which is going to be kind of fun. We're going to learn a lot about vector indexes, how they work and whatnot. And then we can do replication and consistency after that. Right now we have replication of all, because that's what Raft allows. But with Paxos, it's going to open up our horizons on the number of things that we can do and implement. So this should be also an interesting thing that we do. So anyways, that is the plan. So Saturday, we're going to hopefully finish the whole lesson plan for the file system. I think we're mostly there. I just need to review it one more time with you all, and I can make the video on it. And we're working on the consensus lesson plan. It's empty. That's what we're doing tomorrow. And we're also going through the code, updating the code, fixing some of the things that needed fixed. We're going to run some tests to check for bugs. We're going to make some tests and stuff like that for it. And we're going to be drawing out some graphs and charts to try to illustrate how everything works. So yeah, that's what's on the docket starting tomorrow. We're also tomorrow going to do a retrospective on the Null Cloud, what it is right now, why we're kind of redesigning to work on Legion. I have a strong reason, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. The Null Cloud is supposed to be a learning, and I've learned a lot at this point. Hopefully you guys have to a certain extent, and we'll try to wrap that all into that tomorrow as well. So anyways, that's it for me today. Thanks everybody for joining. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found the news entertaining, and I hope you have a great weekend. Even if you don't join me, I hope you have a great weekend and a start of your next week. See ya.